World Virtual Summit 2026. How is your day today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining this day three and looking forward for your presentation as well. So before you start your presentation, I would like to introduce you to the audience. So welcome on stage, Emma. So Emma is a creator of the Sovereign Code and the OAM Pod method. She is a writer, speaker, and a self-leadership mentor whose work focuses on building internal sovereignty to self-worth, self-acceptance, and self-confidence. Emma challenges cultural narratives that normalize burnout, emotional outsourcing, and self abandonment, offering a strategic approach to emotional mastery. Through her speaking, writing, and mentorship, she equips high achieving individuals to reclaim emotional responsibility and lead with grounded, self directed authority. So, this is the introduction of Emma about him. So thank you so much for the great introduction, Emma. And please go ahead and start your presentation. Good luck.
Okay, thank you. Just share my screen. Okay.
Are you looking for anything?
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Thank you. Okay. So the Sovereign Code, reclaiming emotional authority in a high pressure world. So I want you to start by picturing this. It's Las Vegas, Nevada, and you're at one of the most prestigious hotels, the Bellagio Casino, one of the most surveilled, one of the most secure, and of course, one of the most protected buildings on the planet, right? There's 11 men, one plan, and $160 million sitting in a vault beneath the casino floor. Now, if you've seen the movie Ocean's 11, you know how this movie ends. But here's the part I really want you to think about. You see, Danny Ocean and his crew didn't just walk through the door with weapons ablaze. They didn't threaten anybody. They didn't make a scene. Why? Because they were invisible. They moved through that building past the cameras, past the security who had been trained to spot this exact kind of thing, and nobody saw a thing. The lights stayed on, the music kept playing, the cocktail waitresses you kept smiling and serving people on the casino floor. And the casino floor looked exactly like it was supposed to look. And while all of this normalcy was happening on the surface, everything of value was being removed from underneath it. Now, I'm not here today to talk to you about casinos, but I am here to talk to you about the most sophisticated heist that's happening right now. And it doesn't need 11 people, it doesn't need a blueprint or even a tunnel beneath the floor. But what it does need is one thing and one thing only, and that is pressure. Because here's what nobody tells you about a robbery: you don't just get to vote on whether it happens. The casino didn't choose to have 11 men walk through its doors at night. You don't get to choose when pressure shows up either. That phone call, the missed deadline, the conversation that may have gone sideways. What you do get to vote on is what happens next. That's the part most of us were never taught. We treat our reaction like it's just some inevitable, it's just as inevitable as the break in itself, like snapping, shutting down, saying the thing we didn't really mean. And somehow that was out of our hands too, but it wasn't. The break in we couldn't control. What we did after, that was always ours to decide. So by the time most of us realize what's actually happening, we've already reacted, right? Potentially, maybe even saying something that we didn't mean. And then we spend the next few minutes, hours, days, weeks overthinking how we could have maybe done that differently, how we could have handled that differently. I've heard that sentence from so many leaders who go out of their way to show up every day for the people around them. And every single one of them has been robbed in one way or another. Maybe robbed of a choice they didn't even know was still theirs to make. And here's the thing people seem to forget: we are human, right? And the one thing about humans is that we don't know what it is that we don't know. So, how on earth were we ever meant to be able to catch the robber in the moment when none of us were ever taught who or what was doing the robbing? And the thing about a heist like this is that once the casino realizes what happened, they don't just shrug it off and move on. They pull every camera angle, they interview every single security guard, they rebuild their entire security protocol because now, finally, they know exactly what to look for. Most of us never get that chance. We get robbed of our best selves over and over again in rooms, in relationships that we never saw coming. And we never once go back and study the tape. Sometimes we don't get the opportunity to go back and study the tape. We just carry the loss and brace for the next impact and call it resilience, right? Most leaders don't actually have a leadership problem. What they have is a regulation problem they were never taught to see. And I know that story because I know that robbery because I studied it the hard way. You see, for years, I had a pattern that I couldn't see while I was living it. I kept attracting people who needed to be in control of the room, control of the narrative, and most importantly, in control of me. But I won't spend time on them. They don't need the airtime. And honestly, it was never really about them to begin with. What it was about was what I allowed that to do to me. So I remember the exact moment I realized just how much had already been taken. I was standing in my bedroom in front of my closet mirror, like inches away, staring at tired reflection, a reflection of misery. I looked so drained, like the whole life had been taken from me. And I didn't even recognize the person who was looking back at me. But here's what I didn't understand yet: the people who had done this to me, they weren't confused. No, they may have been wounded, but they weren't acting on instinct. Because the more I studied their patterns of behavior, the more I realized that people actually do understand and know exactly what they're doing. They're just better actors than what we give them credit for. Some people even get joy from eliciting a reaction from you. I like to call these people the agents of chaos. But for me, this wasn't an easy thing to accept. To accept that the people who are closest to me, the people who are supposed to love and support me the most, were the ones trying to sabotage me all along. But it did something for me that nothing else had. It lit that fire. It lit that fire within. Because if other people can be intentional with their harm, then I decided that I could be intentional with my healing. So I decided that day that I was going to make a decision to become so mentally strong, so emotionally regulated that nobody would ever be able to provoke a reaction out of me again. Not out of anger, not out of choice. And life didn't pause while I rebuilt myself. It never does it? I still had to show up every day, for my family, for my team, for my business. Show up when people are counting on me the most. And whether you're leading a team, you're leading a project, or you're simply leading your own life by example, some way, somehow, we always find a way to keep showing up. But my question to you would be, how effective can that leadership really be when you haven't yet mastered the art of leading yourself? Because here's what I've learned, both in my own healing journey and in years I've spent helping leaders do the same. Self reflection is a catalyst to regulation, as you cannot regulate what it is that you refuse to see. Not with motivation, not willpower. not another leadership framework about strategy, communication, or execution, all of which matter, but none of which are going to save you in the moment that your nervous system decides to take over. The one thing that actually changes how you respond under pressure is whether you've done the work of seeing yourself clearly before that pressure ever arrives. Because this is one thing we never get told. Your capacity to grow is directly affected by your willingness to see yourself clearly, to see your triggers, to see your patterns of behavior, the parts of yourself that you've been managing around for years instead of actually managing. Now, this isn't about becoming a different person. It's about finally meeting the person that you've been avoiding. And when I finally started doing that work, like really started doing that work, I found that it wasn't random. And I was able to break it down into three specific pillars that together create the basis of sovereign leadership, which is the ability to lead yourself first so that you can lead others effectively. So the first pillar of that is self-worth. Now, self-worth isn't confidence and it isn't ego. It's that quiet, private answer to a question most of us never actually stop to ask ourselves. Do I believe I deserve to take up space that I'm standing in? See, your self worth sets the tone for how you show up in the world. It's your innate knowing that you're worthy simply because you exist, nothing else. And the stronger your foundation of self worth is, the higher it is that you can rise. Because here's what I've seen over and over again in people who, they look completely capable from the outside. You can have the title, you can have the relationship, you can have the life that looks so put together and still move through it quietly asking permission to be there. And when your worth is in question, even slightly, even underneath everything else, you will always shrink in that exact moment that you need to be the most present. You might start to over explain your choices that didn't really need defending. You might take on blame that was never quite yours to carry. And you may even go quiet. In the one moment your voice matters the most. So, how do we begin to build this foundation of self worth? Well, this is where the Rama method comes in. Now, the Rama method is simple yet powerful framework that's designed to help you step into your confidence, embrace your authenticity, and create lasting change. See, at its core, Rama helps you with reflection on your thoughts, your patterns, your beliefs. It increases your awareness of how these patterns shape your life and your leadership. And it helps you gain management of your mindset and action so that you can align with your true self. And lastly, it helps establish a routine to repeat the process to sustain growth and transformation. Why is this important, you ask? Because true leadership starts from within. When you lead yourself with confidence and authenticity, it creates a ripple effect, impacting your business, your work, your relationships, and even your community in extremely powerful ways. So let's apply this method of Rama to the first pillar, self worth. So, what questions will we need to ask ourselves? Let's start with reflection. With reflection, the first question would be, what areas of your life do you not feel worthy in? If you want to go a little deeper, move to awareness, I would ask you, where do these beliefs originate from? And are they even true? For management, what daily habits can you implement to reinforce your self worth? And repeat, how do you make self worth a continuous practice? Now, this is free range, however you'd like to do it. Maybe start with something simple as affirmations could really make a difference. When we move to our second pillar is self acceptance. So, if self worth is about believing you deserve to take up space, self acceptance is about being willing to actually look at what's taking up that space, including the parts of yourself you'd rather not claim. See, this is the part most of us skip. We'll work on our confidence, we'll work on our habits, but we quietly avoid the parts of ourselves that feel embarrassing, feel messy, or the parts that are hard to admit to. True sovereignty requires embracing who you are, flaws, strengths, and all. Self acceptance is about embracing who you are, even in the moments when you feel imperfect, the moments you feel uncertain, or the moments where you feel like you're not enough. Because what you refuse to accept about yourself, it doesn't just disappear. It actually goes underground and starts running the show from there instead. And it'll keep showing up in your relationships, in the decisions you make, in the moments you least expect them, until you finally stop looking away. Self acceptance isn't the same as approval. You don't have to like every part of yourself. 'Cause trust me, we know that's a hard thing to do. You just have to stop pretending that those parts aren't there. So, how would we apply the Rama method for deeper introspection when it comes to our self acceptance? Well, let's start with reflection. Where do you struggle to accept yourself? What parts of yourself do you struggle to accept? Moving to awareness. Where does this rejection come from? And most importantly, how is this serving you? Management. How can you take action towards greater self acceptance? And repeat, how can you make self acceptance a daily practice? Something I used to do is I started off just standing in front of the mirror, 60 seconds, and seeing how long I could stand there for without allowing that inner critic to start tearing myself apart. The third and final pillar is self confidence. Now, notice where this sits. It's not the first pillar, it's not the second pillar, it's the third for a reason. Because most of us have it backwards. We chase confidence first, hoping it will somehow produce worth and acceptance along the way. But confidence built on top of a shaky sense of worth, on top of part of yourself that you still haven't accepted yet, that isn't confidence. It isn't confidence at all. It's actually performance. And performance collapses the moment real pressure shows up. Confidence is not about having no fear. It's about moving forward despite the fear. Real self confidence is trusting yourself enough to be uncertain out loud, to have belief in your ability to take action, to follow through, and to achieve your goals. To be able to say, I don't know, without it costing you your sense of self worth and sending you spiraling for the next 4 days. To make a decision and stand on it, not because you're certain it's right, but because you trust who you are enough to handle if it's not. This is what worth and acceptance we're building towards the whole time. Because you can't fake your way here. You have to earn it, one honest reflection at a time. So let's apply the Rama method here for self confidence. Starting with reflection. What kind of situations do you feel the least confident in? Moving to awareness. Is there any insecurity that's behind this lack of confidence? And is this something that maybe you've overcome before? Management. How can you challenge yourself to actively build your confidence every day? And repeat. How can you sustain confidence as a lifelong practice? If you're the type of person who is not really confident, maybe you're not confident in doing things by yourself, maybe you could challenge yourself, take yourself out to lunch and go eat by yourself. Because the amount of people who are not even able to do that, you'd be surprised. You see, together, these three pillars, self worth, self acceptance, self confidence, they're not steps that you reflect on and complete just one time, but it's something to practice, something that you can return to again and again for deeper introspection. Return to be able to increase that awareness, to increase that gap so that you can go from reaction to a response. Because self reflection was never a one time thing, it wasn't a one time event. It's a daily work of sovereign leadership. And using the Ramah method, can take as little as 5 minutes a day, but it can lead to lasting change. The ripple effect. So, true leadership isn't just about personal success, it's about the impact you create, right? Every choice you make, every step you take in your growth, it doesn't just impact you, it ripples out into the world around you. And the one thing they don't tell you is that when you start doing this work, and I mean really doing the work, you think, first of all, you think that you're just doing it for yourself. And you are. You're the one standing in front of the mirror. You're the one putting in the work and doing the reflecting. You're the one doing the accepting and the rebuilding, right? But something happens once you actually change. You start to walk into the room a little differently. You might start to have those hard conversations you used to once avoid. You stop absorbing the emotions that were never yours to carry. And the people around you, they feel it. Even if they can't name what's changed, they feel it. Your partner feels it, your kids feel it, your team feels it, the people who report to you, the people who look up to you, the people who are quietly watching how you handle that pressure so that they know how to handle theirs in the future, they see it. And the beautiful thing is that even though they see it, they get to feel it, experience it, and they also get to be a part of it. Because we don't just lead with our words, we also lead with our nervous systems. We lead with our patterns of behavior, with whatever we haven't yet gonna look to ourselves in the mirror. So when you do the work, the real work, it doesn't just stay with you. It moves into your home, into your workplace, into every room you walk into. Because one regulated, self aware leader, one regulated, self aware, self accepting person doesn't just change their own life, they change what feels possible for everybody else around them. And you may never know how far this actually travels. That colleague who finally starts speaking up in the meeting because they watched you do it first. The employee who stays at a company because you're the one that maybe built the culture that allowed people to be human. Or the child who grows up believing that self worth isn't something that you have to perform for. Now, you may never see any of this, but that doesn't mean that it's not happening because this is the ripple effect. And it starts the same way every time with one person who's willing to look in the mirror first. So here's what I'm asking you to do, not next quarter, not after things calm down, not once you feel ready, because we know that time's never going to come. But tonight or tomorrow morning, I want you to go and stand in front of a mirror, not to fix your hair or check how fly your outfit is. But I want you to actually take a good look at yourself and ask yourself one honest question. What have I been refusing to see? That's it. That's the whole assignment for today. You don't need the full framework today. You don't need to master all of the 3 pillars by next week. You just need to start where every single shift starts. And every shift I've watched in the people I coach actually starts with one honest look and the willingness to not look away. Because you cannot lead a life, you cannot lead a family, you cannot lead a team of people, a company that you haven't been willing to lead yourself through first. And it starts the same way every time. One person, whole suitcase full of courage and the willingness to look in the mirror and to not look away. So, in the words of Michael Jackson, go make that change. Thank you.
That was an enlightening speech, Emma. Thank you so much for sharing your great presentation with Day 3 People Global Virtual Summit 2026. So, a lot of hearts and a lot of applause from the audience. So, there are some questions from the audience. So, I'll go ahead and repeat for you. So, how can we respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally during stressful situations?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's not something that you can just do overnight. This is the practice. The more you begin to practice increasing your awareness, the more that you can increase your awareness of your triggers and of the things that are actually triggering your emotions. That is the opportunity for you to create space so that you can respond in the future. But it doesn't just happen overnight. It's something that you have to, because you're basically rewiring your brain to be able to spot the patterns. So you have to practice awareness in order to create that space so you can respond in the future.
So, and one more question for you. So, what daily habits can help us reclaim emotional balance and lead with confidence?
Well, there's many different things you can do. I like to keep it kind of broad because everybody's a little different. But I mean, let's pick just one pillar. Let's self-confidence. And I think I mentioned in the speech, if you're not an overly confident person, the way to get and increase your confidence, challenge yourself. When you feel the fear is not a bad thing. It's actually it's clarity directing you towards something that maybe you should give a go. Why? Because then you're going to build on your self confidence. The more hard things you do, and the more you actually follow through and do them, the more your self confidence is going to increase in your own abilities and also help you increase your self esteem. So do hard things, challenge yourself. Go and take yourself out to eat by yourself. Do something that you would have never done previously. That's how I like to do it. Challenge yourself. Step outside your box, and you'll see a
Thank you.
difference.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering these questions, Emma. And thank you so much for sharing your wonderful presentation with us. And please do join our next speaker sessions as well. And share your thoughts, share your questions, and encourage other speakers. And the next speaker is waiting in the backstage. So we'll welcome him. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you.